Sometimes what you need to hear isn't what you want to hear. Like the time in high school when I told a girl I liked her and she said, ew. Did I want to hear that? No. Did it make me stronger and did I learn from it? No. Absolutely not. That was like the meanest possible response. But point is, sometimes you gotta get the cold water. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm splashing you with that cold water. Bloodborne is never getting a remake, a remaster, or a PC port, and especially not a sequel. I'm putting my foot down. Every single video game conference and every single year, everyone in chat is spamming Bloodborne announcements coming. This is the one. Finally, Bloodborne. We're going to get Bloodborne port news, this and that. And now the big cope is Bloodborne's 10-year anniversary is coming up. They're finally going to say something about it. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not coming. The closest we will ever get to anything new Bloodborne related is from the fans who are working diligently to bring it to PC with improved visuals and improved frame rate. They are doing the Lord's work, and I think that'll be the last chapter in the Bloodborne legacy when that's finally completed and brought to PC. I don't think Sony will ever do anything with Bloodborne again. They will let it fester and rot away, collecting cobwebs in their bin of forgotten toys they don't feel like playing with. It doesn't make me happy to say these things. I am a massive Bloodborne fan. It's tied with Elden Ring for my favorite Souls game ever made. And that's the entire genre of Souls, Soulsborne, Souls-like, whatever terminology you want to use. Bloodborne and Elden Ring are tied for me at the number one spot. I think the game is legitimately a masterpiece, and I would love to see more from it. But unfortunately, I think the only way I'll see more from it is if I close my eyes and just fucking imagine it. Put myself in a box like SpongeBob and Patrick and pretend I'm playing Bloodborne 2 or Bloodborne on PC. I don't think it will ever actually come. I do think, though, that someone will probably license the Bloodborne IP and maybe do like some kind of big show out of it. I could see that happening. I believe Sony would be more willing to license it out for like a show production than they would to make another game out of it. So that I do think could be on the table. I just don't think there's going to be any more Bloodborne games or a Bloodborne port or remaster, whatever. I don't think that's coming. But I could see a world where it at least has a show out of it, because everything's getting shows nowadays, and this is still a hot property that people talk about every day for the last fucking 9 years. So there is meat behind it, and I think that they might try and capitalize off that at some point. Fucking Concord has a whole episode dedicated to it in that upcoming Secret Level show, and that game died in 2 weeks. That game actually just got pulled off life support in 2 weeks. So games to shows pipeline is hot right now, and I think that could definitely happen for Bloodborne, but I don't think there's going to be a game for it. Even though Miyazaki and the team seem to really still love Bloodborne, he has gone on record to say that they don't own that IP. Unfortunately, and I've said this in other interviews, it's not my place to talk about Bloodborne specifically. We simply don't own the IP at From Software. Sony owns it, and it's very important to mention this, that Sony's first-party developer, Japan Studio, which is defunct, had a major role in the development of Bloodborne. So, a big speculation is that because Japan Studio is in the Shadow Realm now, that's been fucking vaporized, that kind of took Bloodborne with it. But we can sit around in a circle till the cows come home and speculate, articulate, gyrate, ejaculate, all brainstorming about why Sony is sitting on a gold mine like Bloodborne and never really know the full answer. I have my own theories that I'll share with you. I think the Japan studio shutdown is probably a big component of it, but I personally just believe that Sony doesn't have a lot of faith in the IP. And in the modern AAA gaming landscape, if there's even an iota of doubt, companies don't pull the trigger on it because it's very expensive, especially for something as big as Bloodborne. I talked about this on stream, and people brought up Armored Core 6. Armored Core 6 sold, I think it was 3 million copies, which was actually a big success for them because they didn't put, the $100 million budget behind that title, and it still fucking crushed it. Bloodborne, that would be a chunky financial development cycle. Like, that would cost a lot, and the first Bloodborne sold 7 million copies, which is really good, don't get me wrong, that's great by any metric, except Sony's. I am of the firm belief that Sony only thinks in $100+ million. So, take for example Concord. Absolute catastrophe, complete disaster. I already mentioned Voldemort's name earlier in this video already. That is the biggest flop in entertainment history. But that was a flop that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to Sony, because they put all their eggs in that basket of Concord thinking that it could have the same kind of power as the juggernauts in the industry. Completely delusional, but the point is, I feel like they only put their elbow grease in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of development time and games that they are confident could somehow compete at that level. And I don't think they feel that way about Bloodborne. Let's take, for example, Horizon. Horizon is already getting a remake despite only being 7 years old, but that's because Horizon sold over 20 million copies. Now, of course, I've said this before, and many others have as well. You could very easily make the argument that Horizon sales numbers are inflated, they're really boosted. It's almost like fucking Viewbots to a certain extent, where Horizon was just bundled with every fucking PlayStation for so long that obviously those sales numbers are going to be heavily boosted for it. So I still think the game is extraordinarily popular and sold many, many millions of copies, but I think the 20 million plus that it sold is definitely helped by it being part of the bundle. But regardless, to Sony's eyes, the corporate vampires at the top, the goddamn fucking husks in the suits, they're just seeing the numbers. Horizon, huge numbers. This must mean that it's a slam dunk guarantee anytime we touch this property. So that's why they put so much behind it. You got Lego Horizon coming out. You've got Horizon out the wazoo. Horizon being shoved in every orifice on the human body for gamers. It is because Sony has seen huge numbers and huge returns, so they keep doing more with it. With Bloodborne, there is a single game that sold very well, but it's also been a long time, so maybe they're just skeptical that, this very vocal group might not go out and buy it. Because that is a very real possibility too, with things, and I mentioned this on stream, like the new Prince of Persia Lost Crown. People have been begging for a good Prince of Persia game for God knows how long, and begging for a good Ubisoft game for Lord knows how long. And finally, a great Prince of Persia game came out from Ubisoft, and it flopped. Nobody bought it. But the people that did really liked it. I've heard it's one of the best games of the year. I actually haven't played it myself yet because I'm still playing through 9 Souls, but the people I've seen glazing this game are people whose taste usually align with mine when it comes to games, so I do think that they're probably right that the game slaps. And even though the game came out and was very well received, it highly underperformed for them. And that happens from time to time, where something is highly requested, people are really wanting something, fucking foaming at the mouth, saying like, we need this is like this is a home run, this is a layup if they just deliver it. Then the thing comes out and it doesn't translate to success. That does happen from time to time. You can never really be sure based on like the people that are very vocal about it. You never really know for sure. And I think that's something that Sony might think for Bloodborne, but I feel like Bloodborne is at a point where it is so well known and comes from a developer that has so much prestige that shouldn't be a thought that crosses their mind. I'm just saying that it is a possibility that it is something they consider. I can't even pretend to be in Sony's shoes, because if it was me, this would be a no-brainer to do something with Bloodborne. At least a PC port that would have come out many years ago with me at the helm. Like, that feels like it should be so obvious, and that's such a small lift, like a small investment to just port to PC. Like, I know I'm kind of downplaying like what the work that goes into it, but comparatively to a full-blown AAA title being developed, like that one is significantly easier for them to have done, and it would have just been pure profit, because the word of this game is spread for so long, so wide. I think so many people probably would have just gotten it to be part of the crew, part of the ship, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Bloodborne's finally here on PC, I can do that, I can play that now. And I think it would have just popped off for it. But I'm just saying, like, even though like there's a very vocal group that wants something to come out, it doesn't always mean it's going to be super successful. But in the case of Bloodborne, I really feel like it probably would. FromSoft is just one of the most beloved developers in the world right now. Everything they touch turns to gold. It's so stupid to not use Bloodborne, but Sony is choosing to just squat on it. I saw someone make a really good point as well in the comments section a little while ago about like Sony's apprehension to do anything with Bloodborne being even more confusing when you consider that one of their big titles for the PS5, like their next gen, like super system seller type title, was Demon's Souls Remake. Demon's Souls was, when it came out, a under the radar game. Like, that wasn't a household name by any means. The original Demon's Souls, I think, eventually pushed over 2 million once Dark Souls popped off and people wanted to go back and experience like the first of the Souls series, but it was not a widely popular game. Demon's Souls Remake, though, they went hard with and put a lot behind. However, it's also not performed like amazingly for them based on what I can tell. The most recent sales figures I can find put it at just over 2 million copies of Demon's Souls Remake, which I don't think is entirely on Demon's Souls' shoulders here. I think it's because of the scarcity of the PS5 initially. You were more likely to find a fucking Chaos Emerald than you were to find a PS5 for the first couple years. So obviously it's not going to have spectacular sales numbers, but maybe that plays a role in FromSoft being so apprehensive to use the Bloodborne IP for even like a remake. I don't know, but it is very odd that they chose to remake Demon's Souls, which did not perform very well, instead of doing Bloodborne, which did. Even when Bloodborne came out, it was massive. It was a huge success. It's not like it just retroactively became a big success. Demon's Souls did, but not Bloodborne. Bloodborne was always a success. Yet they haven't touched it. They haven't done anything with it. The closest thing we've had to anything new Bloodborne related is from fucking Astrobot with a costume for Bloodborne. It's so weird. I don't know why they wouldn't have chose Bloodborne for the PS5 remake. That would have made so much more sense. I really liked Demon's Souls Remake. I had a great time with it. But just really looking at it, I don't know what Sony has against Bloodborne. Like, the more I break it down, I just cannot fathom this hate boner they have for Bloodborne. I don't get it. I really don't. There's gotta be something more behind the scenes that's leading to them not doing anything with it. I've thrown out so many silly theories and thought processes they might have that leads to them not touching it, but at the end of the day, I don't get it. I think it would have been very simple to do the bare minimum of just giving it an update for a PC port, a remaster, so that way you can go over 30 FPS, because the game is still 30 FPS. Like, it would have been the easiest thing in the world just to do a small scale project with it. Instead of, if you don't want to cannonball into the pool, whatever, I guess, it would have just been so easy for Sony to test the waters and see how it would, like how the community would respond, if it would be successful or not. And it just doesn't make sense that they haven't. They do this for so many games that are significantly less popular than Bloodborne, and I don't get it. While I may not understand the real motive or reason why Bloodborne is so stagnant and Sony prefers to just let it get stale and collect dust, I do know for sure that they're not going to change. Sony has proven to me time and time again that they are a creature of habit. If they have decided they don't want to use the Bloodborne IP, they're just not going to use it ever. I think Sony as a company will probably wither and die and fucking dissolve before they ever do anything with Bloodborne again. I do think they could make a show out of it, like I said earlier. I think they will eventually start licensing it for shows and all of that, but I do not think there will ever be another Bloodborne game, like an official one, a sequel or a remaster. And I just want to throw this Hail Mary out there because I know it goes against what a lot of people believe, that eventually we'll see more from Bloodborne because we have to. It's so popular, it doesn't make sense why we wouldn't. I just truly think Sony is going to play hardball with it and, out of spite maybe, never use Bloodborne again. That's my theory, and I just wanted to put it out there. I think people gotta stop getting their hopes up at every single video game conference to see Bloodborne-related news, because I don't think it's ever coming. Now, I do have a track record of being very wrong, where I make these predictions, and then within like a month, it's completely washed. I made a similar prediction for Halo Infinite, though I will say I was partially correct, because what I talked about with Halo Infinite is that the game they showed would never come out, and it never did. What we got with Halo Infinite was a much more half-baked version of what they used to show. So I'm gonna stick to my guns on that a little bit. I was kind of half right with Halo Infinite. I was super wrong with Elden Ring, though. I said Elden Ring probably wouldn't be coming out for like another 5 or so years, if it even existed at the current moment, and then it came out like the following year. So, I don't have the best track record with this, so this could serve a really noble purpose of like kind of jinxing it into existence where I'm saying Bloodborne's never coming, like a new Bloodborne, and then we'll get it in like a month or two. So, you know, it's kind of a win-win. I'm either right that they never use Bloodborne again, or I'm wrong and we get more Bloodborne, which is a win for everybody. So, you know, yeah, I just want to talk about it a little bit. That's about it. See ya.